Peter Cooperwhite says, I see Rangers player Nicolas Raskin was named player of the match. He's talking about for Belgium against Ukraine the other night. If Arne Engels is worth £11 million and can't even make the bench for Belgium, what's Raskin's value? And getting a standing ovation when subbed. Chris Lowe follows up with usual cheerleaders, another slow to talk up Celtic players with tales of 30 million rated are strangely quiet on Raskin. He's a player who's been immense in this, and his team storming to the last day of a European tournament. Man of the match in a Belgian team littered with stars, and not forgetting scoring and running the show at the home of the Gallowgate Globetrotters recently. 30 million for Raskin, you having that?
I don't know about 30 million, but it's fair comment, Daniel, in terms of his current form or his recent form. And I think you need to put a lot of that down to Barry Ferguson, if I'm being honest, and the differences he's made in the last few games. I mean, I watched some of the highlights of the Belgium game the other night. He started in a massive game against Ukraine. Belgium are 2 down for the first leg, had to go and win. They get the job done, 3-0. Lukaku scored twice. And he's in a midfield with Kevin De Bruyne, who we know is a superstar at Man City, and Van Aken, who's the Club Brugge captain, who I watched at Celtic Park earlier this season. He was fantastic that night. And the biggest compliment you can pay Raskin is that he didn't look, he looked comfortable in that kind of company. And he didn't. It wasn't as if he was the first sub or get taken off after an hour. 89 minutes he played as a sitting midfielder for Belgium, and the guy who wrote in's right. He got a standing ovation for the crowd when he went off. That's a massive moment, I think, for Raskin, getting that first start and impressing. As I say, it's off the back of a brilliant performance at Celtic Park. I mean, he was the man of the match by a country mile, I think.
Good couple of games against Fenerbahce.
Aye, I mean, brilliant ball obviously against Fenerbahce for Cherny's goal in Turkey. But the Celtic game was key for him because he's been pigeonholed a wee bit as a kind of sitting midfielder, number 6, and that's all he can do, break up play and tackle and get in about people. I thought at Celtic Park he showed that, but he showed another side to his game as well. He can actually make forward passes. He can make forward runs. He actually drifted off the back of Arne Engels with a great run for Rangers' second goal to flick it on to Diomande. That's after he'd opened the scoring himself with a brilliant header. So, no, he's in brilliant form. And the reason I say I talk about Barry Ferguson is that I don't think that Belgium call-up or this kind of form was on the cards under Philippe Clement. It certainly didn't look that way. And I just wonder, it'd be interesting to know from Barry Ferguson what kind of direct influence he's had on him. Obviously, he was a top-class central midfielder, so you'd expect him to be dealing with him one-to-one and trying to make him better. And listen, it's still early days, obviously, for Ferguson and Raskin, I suppose, but I think he's made a huge impact on him, and Raskin's now reaping the benefits.
Craigie says in the comment section, the next manager needs to build the team around him. Hopefully contract extension on the way for him too. Darren's getting excited, saying Raskin's an outstanding player, world class and really young, but Mark Fairfield counters it by saying Raskin's played well for 4 or 6 weeks? A wee bit longer than that, I think, to be fair, Keith.
Good player. He's a good player, and I said last night that I do think he's benefiting from having Barry Ferguson around. I think the two of them have had a series of sort of one-to-ones. And I think that Nico Raskin had an idea about how he wanted to play, and I get the feeling that there's been a bit of mentoring there, and it's just little things. It's nothing major. It's just your body shape when you want to receive the ball in that area of the pitch. Where do you go? What do you look to do with it? Just little things that sharpen him up, and I've seen that difference in him. And I would go further than that, Scott, to say that's been one of the major problems that Rangers have had since Clement went into the club. I believe, it's my understanding, there hasn't been any one-to-one coaching at any point. And I think the players in there over the last 3-4 weeks, whatever it's been, I think they've really enjoyed the fact that there's guys out there that are trying to improve them. that they're taking on their advice and they're realising, this guy knows what he's talking about because it's made me better at the weekend, or it's made me better in that training session. And I think it's actually little short of criminal, because we've talked, how many nights have we talked on here about Brendan Rodgers and his ability to, as a coach, to make a player better, to improve him, to take aspects of his game that can, that are maybe 20% lower than where they can be, and to raise them. And he does that because he's a training field coach, and he knows, just by looking at somebody, he knows what advice to give them to make them come on leaps and bounds. And I think for the first time, and I think it's a joke actually, that Rangers had a coaching staff there and players weren't getting one-to-ones after training. Simple things, I believe, like Conor Barron, who didn't get an instant, wasn't automatically put into the starting 11 when Barry Ferguson went in there. But I believe boys like Conor Barron and Bailey Rice are benefiting from very similar stuff. Just staying on a little bit later, working on the finer details, the things that will take you from that level to that level. And I think Rangers are benefiting from it, not just Raskin. Of course they are. How wouldn't you? If you've got guys with the expertise of the Rangers coaching staff that have come in, of course you're going to benefit if they're telling you, if you're prepared to take on information, if you're prepared not to think that you know it all already, but that these guys might be able to make you better. I think all football players, all professional football players, go to their work hoping that they can improve themselves, that they can get better, that somebody can teach them how to do that. And I think, from what I hear, I think that the players in it, Auchenhowie just now, are really benefiting from and enjoying that aspect, which is completely new.
The bigger picture, Daniel, of course, we're asking is, people are throwing numbers about there and we can kind of laugh about it or whatever, and talk about different values and stuff, talking about Engels, 11 million. The bigger picture is Rangers are desperate to have a player trading model that earns them serious money. And when you look at the profile of their players, Raskin at 24, as a Belgian international, if he can cement a place in that squad, in that team, then Rangers are then looking at somebody with serious value. As long as he keeps improving, as long as he keeps getting better, as long as he stays fit. I think he's got 2 years left in his contract. And I'm not sure.
This summer a big one then, Scott, really, doesn't it?
It does. And with the takeover and everything as well, it's going to be a fascinating summer. I mean, not just with Americans coming in, but decisions like this. Are they already, are there people behind the scenes already looking at this and looking at Raskin with 2 years left? What do? Do they sign him up on a longer term deal, protect their asset, see him as a key player going forward in the next couple of years for what they want to achieve? Or do they say, let's cash in now, let's do it. Let's do what Celtic have done with a number of players, and when they reach a kind of optimum value, they go and cash in and sell them, and that would probably need to be this summer. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with him.
Our pal Gianni, he says Leeds could buy him and fund the next Rangers transfer window.
It's taken a while, Gianni, but that's a good point.
We finally got there.
That is a good point.
Aye,
who knows how this model is going to work.
Aye.
In terms of the relationship, because the clubs that put themselves under one umbrella, we've seen it with guys for Brighton going to Union Saint-Gilloise, and on to Hearts. It's not feeder club stuff, but it's having a relationship. And if Raskin feels that he wants to play, if he's desperate in a hurry to get to the English Premier League, and if Leeds can finish off the job and actually get there over the next few weeks, that might be a solution. And that's one of the benefits of the relationships that Rangers are about to get involved in here. Mm-hmm. And why it's so important that nobody does anything that scares off the horses between now and completion.